The complainant in this case, in Municipal Board of Ethics Notice of Potential Violation 2014-4, is a member of my Rotary Club. I have no personal knowledge or any kind of involvement in the facts alleged or anything going on in this case, and I see no reason why I would have any problem voting on this issue.
Okay, so I'll move that David's potential conflict is neither a substantial financial nor prejudicial personal conflict.
I'll second that because of the lack of numbers of people who can do it.
Okay.
And then we got enough to, it seems redundant to call a vote. Nobody's opposed. You're on the stick.
You can make the motion.
Oh, and I move that we do not accept notice of potential violation.
Well, we have to go back. Now we have to go out of the. Do we?
We're
No,
out
we're
of
no,
the
we're
tickets.
out.
We're out.
Yes.
You have to put a flag up.
You
I
know,
wish I had like a hurricane warning flag, right? It's like 3 different flags. Gale
Three.
warning, small craft advisory. So I'll move to that we do not accept notice of
Second.
potential violation 2014-4.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded not to accept the, hearing nobody, that motion carries.
And shall I prepare the standard letter with?
mhm.
Yes.
I don't think we need to get anything special with this one. Now where are
6A?
we? Yes. And in 6A, until we see the letter that's been prepared by our hearing officer, is there much that we can do?
I thought Terry was writing a letter. Review of advisory opinion with conclusion. You were going to write it.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah.
That's not
Oh.
what Thank you.
I thought it was.
No, I didn't. That is right. And I finished that and
Yeah.
emailed it to Steve.
Oh,
and he's not
Steve.
even here anymore.
Oh man.
I emailed it to Steve and Ted.
That's right.
Wow.
For their review.
What did
I
you
had
write?
I handwritten it and I gave the only copy I had to Ted. He said he wanted to look at it.
Okay, shall we postpone
I
this?
just don't know what to say about my colleagues on this board. I'm sorry, I forgot about that when I emailed.
Actually,
So
I was-
about the
I was
Miller thing,
thinking
I did
of
that this morning, I'm like,
NOPD.
all right, I'm done my homework. And it was like, and it was nagging at me. He's like, okay.
Where is our? I was thinking of our NOPV 2014-2. So I was getting myself confused.
Okay, so
Okay.
are we on 6C?
We're on 6B. If you have
6B.
quick question, those questions answered. D. B.
Publishing reports for notice of potential violation.
Yeah.
I don't have these.
It's interesting because I was looking where in our.
Just look on your
code.
agenda.
These are the school board one
Oh.
and a mayor one. I got the school board one from, it's written over here, and I got it from Lisa and is sending it on to Mike Abbott. But we have sort of an interesting conflict in the code when I was really looking at this, that it says, in one section it says, of the sole discretion of the respondent, the board may release the statement of closure as a public document. And then there's a section on written report, at the conclusion of investigation finding a violation, but that seems to be finding a violation. And we didn't find one in the school board. But I'm still going to send it on to Mike Abbott because I think it's a very helpful opinion. And just say, yes. Initially I thought, well, I'm not sure he has to say yes, but this is confusing, so let's get his yes. With the other one, so remember we looked at the scrub version and we thought that it was it gave away too much information. And I didn't know whether we were going to scrub it further. Now, I remember I was taken off of that matter, so I didn't think it was appropriate for me to scrub it further.
Okay.
So whether we should scrub it further. I think now that it's post-election, the confidentiality will not be particularly at issue.
Okay.
So if we scrub it a little bit further. And I guess when we look at it, if you scrub it further, is it going to be helpful? And
Right.
if you,
Right.
unless you refer to it as an elected official, perhaps.
Right.
I'm not sure. Or I guess I could send it as is and see if that person.
Well, that's what I thought you were gonna do, yeah.
Well, then I got confused about it. We didn't think it was scrubbed enough when we actually looked at it. So,
Oh, okay.
let me find those two versions, and maybe I'll just walk them up either way.
Yeah,
Which is,
why don't we do that? I
why
mean,
don't you
if,
just-
if,
maybe there's no objection. I
if
mean,
the
it
person
was-
in question
it was
is
well known, the
okay
whole
with
incident
it,
was
then
well
we'll just
known.
proceed with it as it is currently
Mhm.
scrubbed. And if he or she has an objection, then we'll scrub
Okay,
a little bit
and
more.
I'll just walk it up then.
Thanks.
Okay.
And again, we're spending the school board one with Mike Abbott, and I'm sure that they'll say no objection.
Okay.
I forget what that was all about.
School board one,
Yeah.
bond funding by school funds.
Yes. Next on here is 6C NOPV 2014-2, which is what actually
That is.
yeah, that's where I thought we were at before, so.
I have a draft that's about 2/3 complete.
So until we review the draft, there's really not much we can do at this point.
And that's an important one.
That
we
is,
do
yeah.
as the board's
We'll fiddle
recommending
with.
action.
Mhm.
So my intention was, once I had a rough draft complete, to, pass that out for comment that is particularly hypersensitive about edits. So
And then
feel
going
free
into
to edit at
the
will.
serial meeting,
Yeah.
maybe that you pass it out and that everybody does their own edits and brings it back to the
Yeah.
meeting.
Yeah.
That would be the best.
Whatever
thing.
you guys think is the best route for that, that's fine with me.
Yeah,
But I'm
send it-
not.
send it
As
to
long
us,
as we
and then-
can't, we just have to be careful, stay out of trouble. Barbara's always telling me, don't violate open meetings, so.
Okay.
No, so we'll just review it in advance of the next meeting, so
Mhm.
when we come, we'll have come with suggestions. That's good.
Because she's anxious for some sort of decision.
Who is that?
She was the one who submitted the NRPV,
Oh.
and so.
See how confidential it is? I've already forgotten her name.
And you may want to scrub that name.
I will. What should we just say the next meeting, or should I refer her to anybody?
I don't think you should refer in, I would say that we're hopeful of the next meeting.
The next meeting.
Hopeful next meeting.
I
Well-
mean, you can refer to the timeline that's in the code, which we're still within it,
Okay.
and it will be completed prior to the expiration of the time.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah.
Unless we give ourselves an extension.
That's right.
Absent any,
Yeah,
alteration- any
which is also
corrections,
within the code.
which is- it will be issued first.
Okay.
So are we actually gonna make it through this agenda possibly?
I was just wondering.
I should, and I should point out, the new members of the board, I do not think, should be able to
I agree.
participate.
Exactly.
in,
I agree.
In the discussion, and I think it would be helpful, but, this is old business from, the previous members, they didn't participate in the testimony or anything like that, so. We're
And then-
shorthanded, but unfortunately, I think to finish this up, we'll have to remain
Well,
shorthanded.
and in other boards, they'll, if they can listen to all the tapes, but see, they couldn't because all the deliberation
deliberations.
was not being taped, so it'd be improper.
Okay.
So 6D, review drafts of proposed amendments to the Code of Ethics.
Which one was that?
6D1, we have some proposed amendments regarding political activity under NOPV.
Oh, is this the one that I fiddled with
Yes, this is,
Okay.
and this is your latest draft.
latest?
This is the one you gave edits to.
Yeah, this, all I was doing is subsections I, 2 little I, 3 little I, 4 little I, or, 4 little I. Those subsections, I just went through and made those sentences. I just fiddled with the syntax of the sentences. If I remember, that's all I did. Right?
And that criteria came from Nelson Page's
Right.
recommendations.
I think what we did is instead of just cutting and pasting from him,
Yeah.
all I did is just rearrange it so that it made, to me, it just made it a little bit clearer within the context of a subsection. But I think, if I remember, the substance was all the same. I didn't change stuff.
And if I can speak to this, my concern is while this accomplishes the one elaboration that's necessary, there were two really difficult parts to this section. One was the first number one, the subsection, the fact that it's in an employee section yet it's aimed at entities, that was very confusing. And then within that E, the infamous E, actively campaign for material of a partisan nature on any ballot measure. whether that, remember whether the whole tieback provision, the fact that in the, both in the elected officials and in the appointed persons sections, it says you can't knowingly cause to violate anything in this section. So did that mean the elected official couldn't do any of these things, or just couldn't cause an employee to do any of these things? So I guess my concern is if we did an amendment now without correcting those things, that they probably all need to be corrected at one time, which is unfortunately a bigger effort. So I guess I would suggest that this would be unfortunately premature. Now that we know really how problematic this entire section is, that we need to clean it up.
That's fine. So
Yeah.
what, hold this then?
That this is that part of that we need to clean up. But there's two other sections we just got to address.
Well, in the Assembly Committee, the Ethics Committee of the Assembly knows this stuff is coming, but I agree if we need to massage a little more to bring it all, if we're gonna make fixes, let's
Mhm.
don't
Do it
fix
all
halfway.
Yeah.
Okay.
And this is something I spent a lot of time on in other contexts, answering some assembly questions about what the assembly people could and could not do. Could they have a car in our parking garage with a pro something banner or an antis, And so I answered a number of these questions, and really got into the meat of how difficult the section was. And I think now with Glenda taking over more of the opinion writing, that I might be able to do the code rewrite section more effectively.
So, Madam Clerk, did you put that on her assignment list?
Yes, I wrote DNS.
I worked very hard this morning getting through my assignments. All morning.
So we go on to D2, proposed amendment regarding productivity advisory opinion 2014 Wait a minute, I'm confused.
Well, it probably is going to roll into that ball of wax that Dee is talking about, because this is the opinion for the ballot measure. And you all noted several problems with the code. And we didn't put down anything specific, but I think it's going to roll into exactly what you're saying. There's more to this rewrite than...
Yeah, it may not serve the purpose it once did. Because initially, I think, Terry, we had thought that it was going to be more along the lines of, we decided that the code was not specific enough to prohibit conduct, not that we agreed with the resolution at all, it was probably bad government. But then we really didn't flush out all the problems there. And if we're going to make this larger effort, and that was a request for advisory opinion.
From an assembly person.
Could I see what?
This was the request.
Yeah. And then you borrowed some from the one opinion. Well, I'm sure, I would assume that the requester would have no problem if we said we wanted to defer an opinion, and it really, they're better spent rewriting this. And really it was more fortuitous that it was allowed to go forward just because the code wasn't specific enough. Otherwise, it wouldn't have. I don't know, what does the board think?
I agree. Now, if this kind of case is going to help us think through the code and rewrite the section to make it more clear, it's going to serve the same purpose of what I was hoping to do with an advisory opinion. Anyway, I was going to say, let's jump on this and take this unclear section and just sort of, in a common law type style, just say, this is what we think it means, and there it is. Right now, there's at least some clarity, at least in terms of how the board's going to understand this section of the code. But if we're really going to dig in and rewrite that section of the code, that's the preferable thing to do anyway.
Now, I'm not suggesting any more meetings right up front here, but it sounds like we may need to have just a work session just on that alone.
Among ourselves?
Yes.
Well, and it might be interesting to see if the APOC person gets on this board body. Who has some background in that portion. Would be interesting.
Because it just, we tend to get wrapped up in these things, get pushed towards the end, and we actually could considering how late we started. I'm surprised we're as far as we are. So.
And that might be a good idea, is have a work session versus,
Man, just a code writing session.
Yeah.
Right, just gonna come in.
Um,
You wanna do that, but that one, it would be good to do that session when the new people are on board.
well, yeah, because that'll help. They'll get to look at the code with a fresh set of eyes, as well as, especially, well, sort of fresh. You've got somebody from.
Well, that's the thing. The nice thing is, Bill's already familiar, with the code to some degree, and the APOC person is familiar with
yeah.
the APOCs, and so that would be two good extra set of eyes. That would be pretty helpful. Because I don't want to go and get into rewriting the code looking like you two.
All right, so I suppose we can move on to D3, amendment for regarding disclosure of present and economic interest. And since Steve is gone,
and that was a simple rewrite, which I have not done, just to say when the LERSAs, when they had to do their disclosure, because January 15th didn't work for them. They're elected in April.
well,
It's just a timing one. They were elected in April, and then most of them don't meet till the beginning of fall. And so they're somewhere, I'm talking about, before they take action at their first board meeting, they have to have these in. So,
Oh, it's just that one. Oh, no, that's not
well, that shouldn't. I mean, that's
yeah, that's just a pretty simple.
a one
Can I
paragraph.
ask, Lisa, do you have any time to look at that?
Yes?
Yeah, this is not complicated. This
Yeah.
should
Yeah,
just-
because this should be really simple.
Not gonna do
Yeah.
that.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, that shouldn't take any time. I mean, that's just our disclosure forms, do them annually. Yeah, it
Well,
should-
but
and-
for them,
and
it's
then-
annually.
Right.
But they need to do the first one is right after they're elected,
Separate from-
before they take any
Any
official
action.
action at the
Well,
first meeting.
maybe their first meeting.
And separate from APOCs. That's all, right?
Mhm.
So, yeah, that's pretty straightforward.
Okay, so I'll bring that back next meeting.
And then there's a proposed amendment regarding advisory opinions. That's
was a simple one, too.
under D4.
Change to include that we can take the up on the committee.
And that's
Okay.
it to that
Is that it?
change. I mean,
Okay.
that's it. I
What-
mean, if we can approve this, it can go ahead and go
Yeah.
out there, just be done with.
Yeah.
Well, that would be part of the consent agenda as far as I'm concerned. I'm not, obviously,
Well, it's an
I don't work
ordinance,
But
so it has to have an.
does it have to have a
yeah.
hearing?
Ordinance, yeah, but maybe we can give this to that committee to process
okay,
versus us.
okay, good.
Well, do we want to take an official action on this one to approve?
Move to approve.
Second.
Aye.
Moved and seconded to approve this AO 2014 dash whatever it is.
Yeah.
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 Approve and give to the Ethics and Elections Committee.
Right.
Okay.
Wow, something's off the agenda.
Whoa.
Is this TK's?
Yeah, you can see this is something I pulled together.
Under 6E.
A lot of time working on this, so.
And then you didn't get, did you ever send it over to Mr. Strom?
Now, this one I just did, so.
Oh, well, but it says he was supposed to
Yeah,
create a
my
checklist.
resolution process. Yeah, I looked at the thing that Lisa sent out and made just a couple, changes here. No, I'm only kidding. This is the one.
This is the old 2007 one.
That's
He's-
the damn thing.
That's what I figured.
I wouldn't say that. I mean, you did this draft.
You
backdated that,
Terry,
didn't you?
no one has, you've never gotten far enough to even look at this draft that you
I know. Well,
did.
look at the thing I did.
So you
do.
did do
That's
something.
No wonder I don't do as much. I'm appreciated.
There's a whole
Look at
draft
this,
that
my
you
flow
did
chart, the whole flow chart.
with a flow chart.
I like it.
And then I found the 2007, you were going to integrate the two.
Yes, that's right.
So, but yeah, he did all this nice.
So it's
And-
still-
And honestly, I emailed Lisa this morning asking her for this document, and she did not get it back to me for over 20 minutes.
Yes.
It was too late. to work on it.
True that. Yes.
I think I emailed her.
Okay, so back in-
11:21. It was 11:21 because I'm like,
Like,
I know.
Well, can I suggest a work session on this as well? That this, because there are some differences here that I think, I think it's just helpful, because then we all sit down and look at it and discuss it versus trying to do all of this ahead of time. And that this, this is something we've talked about for a long time and we never do it. Is that this, in fact, to me would be the number one work session, is to get this done, because it will help us in terms of the process, whether things are confidential and whether you're executive or deliberative. So
Who's the intended audience for this document?
Us, right? I mean, we kind of did it for us, I think.
This was actually on the website,
Okay.
so it's not anymore. I mean,
But it was at
but
one
at one
point.
time it was on the website.
Oh, yeah, right, because it doesn't.
The
Because
concept
it's
is
addressed
we
on
wanted
the
to,
website, so
yeah.
if you are
Right.
identified, so it seems like, and it made me wonder, like, it would be helpful to maybe come up with a couple different documents. One is sort of like an internal document for this board saying, like, okay, it's an NOPD, boom, here's, so we're not, because sometimes we go a few months without one of these, and it's like, what do we send to this
Yeah.
person at this, or just right now, do we not, is this dismissing it or not
Sure.
accepting it, right? So one for us, and then
Do we
one
write
for
something?
the,
Do we not
one
write
for the
something?
one for the complainant, and one for the recipient, respondent, right? Saying like, look, you've been named in this complaint, here's, the relevant sections of the code, here's what the process looks like, and then the same thing for the complainant. I think it'd be a good idea.
and then even in your flow chart, I think we could put the code sites for every little box. That would be
right.
helpful.
Well, and that was
And then-
actually, wasn't that Steve's
Job.
job?
Well, he was supposed to create a checklist.
Checklist.
for
Oh,
us.
okay.
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 And
Well,
also-
he Steve does checklists. Yeah,
Well, then he
does
can't
that.
leave until he's finished with his assignment.
But see, as we fill that in a work session, then we could
Yeah.
look at the code section and see if the code section says that or needs to be changed. I think a lot of that code section could be cleaned up,
I think that's right.
Well,
because it is confusing.
right, well, we're actually blasting along here. Do we have any reports? Sure enough, she has a report.
No, I do not.
Other
is
than
my
that, other than we do
notes.
have an annual report that's gonna be coming up, so clerk's office comes together with all those, she'll help tabulate all the facts and figures.
But the
Whatever
annual
you're
report,
assigned to
that-
do.
We don't have to submit that for like 2 or 3 more years.
Yeah. The idea is to at least get a start at it.
We did better it took us 6 months this time.
Yeah,
It's
and that's partly my
summer.
fault, mostly my fault. Yeah.
But, hey.
But it does help-
Better than the previous chair.
It does help if you have all the figures, facts and figures and whatnot, how
Okay.
many meetings we went.
I'll do the whole thing where I do the draft as a template, and then you get to fill in all the details, all the work that was done. You
Well,
meaning the board.
subject to
You
the
meaning
board,
the
yeah,
board.
not just me.
Yeah, I mean the board.
Member comments.
And can I report on something I thought was on my homework list?
Oh.
See, when I actually do it, I escape my list. I have gotten ethics officers for each part of the city recognized. The mayor should be officially signing off on them. And we're gonna send those out by probably employee bulletin to all the departments, so everybody will have an identified person. Most of these people, with a few exceptions, have been involved as ethics officers in the past. Then we'll have them, in the past, we used to also meet once a month. So probably meet every other month, but I'll have them introduced to you as well. So it'll be an interesting give and take. At least when I started on this board 5-6 years ago, to me the board was sort of quieter, and these ethics officers did a lot more. And in my tenure, we stopped doing the ethics officer because I kept referring things over to the board. So it'll be interesting to see, but the board was concerned with respect to the last violation, whether the excuse why I didn't know who to ask was a good one. And now at least that would be, you definitely have to ask that ethics officer, and that ethics officer has to have the good sense to refer it to the board. I think ethics officers are very, very good at conflict of interest, however, things that we really, with this board, probably can't do as well.
And that we can call on. And someone who we can ask, like, to understand the potential conflicts within that agency or whatever.
Well, the issue we did have within a department, and I can't speak
Right.
the name of the department, but where we had an issue, we misunderstood the issue. You actually had to come back and bring us back around to explain how that department worked. And had there been somebody that was in there, they may have been able to. We could have maybe got it right the first time.
It might be interesting to have that department's ethics officer attend a
Yes.
meeting on those type of issues.
Well, if we have that, we just call them. It's easy to have that person come.
Great, member comments. Actually, I have a comment. I'm not sure what I'm going to do about it now. I had intended to call elections at the next, is it January? Yes. I intended to go ahead and do that, but now I'm wondering if that's going to be the right thing to do up front, considering we have 2 new members.
I think what we should do is hold you off another calendar year while we let the 2 additional members kind of settle into their new positions before we start holding additional elections.
But then, Dr. Kelly, what I was going to ask you as chair emeritus,
Yes.
what do you think about, passing the hat and the gavel to somebody to practice being chair? You let me do that plenty of times. You just didn't show up. Whether that was your intention, I think that was your intention to train me.
It's by design all along.
So, because we won't have anybody who's had, actually, I wasn't aware of one of our members having previously been on the board. But I don't know if it's appropriate for Dr. Kelly or I to be vice chair or co-chair or what, after being chair. So that's the reason I'm.
Well, I don't think there's anything.
Yeah, it's
I
not
don't think there's
inappropriate
anything
about it.
inappropriate about it. But the idea of the vice chair was to start grooming someone
Yes.
to be chair. So if the chair didn't make it to a meeting, then the vice chair did it, and I can imagine like things that we would ask the vice chair to do. Like one of the things I think we should lay out in our new procedures, is this decision we just recently made that if a notice of potential violation comes in, the clerk informs the chair right away of it, maybe sends it to the chair. And then the chair decides if there needs to be an emergency meeting or not. But the chair might be conflicted, right? You might have a conflict, in which case it should maybe go to the vice chair, right? So I can imagine various things we want the vice chair to do. So in which case, unless one of us wants to be chair after David, which would be okay, but
Either one. I mean, I don't know that I wasn't aware that you've been called by the mayor. I've never been called by the mayor after the suggestion that we do so. So it's pretty much being the chair is running the meeting and signing some documents that you throw in front of me. And running the meeting is not that hard, but I had intended to do so, but assuming that we still had member Strom and member Carlson here.
so I suppose that when we have Bill and our other, what's our other person's name?
We don't know yet.
Oh, okay. Bill and Madam Q. We should just take them. I mean, none of them are. She's APOC. He's been on this board first, so they all sort of know the routine, and we can sort of ask, is anyone interested in being vice chair? Is there and with the understanding this is sort of grooming you to become chair? We may find that, one of them is sort of interested. I wouldn't be surprised if Bill was sort of interested in it. And if neither of them want to do it, then then I'll do it, right? But we'll kind of do it that way. I mean, I'm certainly not opposed to doing it. So.
Yeah, it's not like I'm dying to get rid of the gavel. It's that I've been chair for 2 years. Well, not quite 2 years, since Dr. Kelly abdicated. With no warning. I'm giving warning at least. So I just wanted to let you know. Yeah.
What kind of precedent did I establish?
Exactly.
Well, and I think the municipal clerk's office is trying to establish a procedure where we get our boards and commissions, having that election annually and trying to have it in January or the first meeting of the year for all of our boards. So I think we need to have the election whether or not anything's going to shift or change. And then I like Terry's suggestion. I mean, if it's going to go over to David, because you never know what's going to happen. We didn't know Steve was going to leave. So how long do you groom somebody, Maybe it's time, to push it forward, and then if one of these people or Terry wants to vice, then we're in another grooming situation. But otherwise, what if David gets a job in Minnesota and leaves next, doesn't get his chance to be chair but whatever you decide, I think we should have the election in January. That's all I was trying to say.
Well, put it on the agenda.
Okay.
And then any other member comments? There's you're the only member of the audience.
I have no comments.
We've got two things actually. What's not on the agenda is the date and time of the next meeting.
Well, it's gonna be January 14th. Is this the time of the year that we decide again whether the schedule needs to move forward?
You know
next
year yet?
Oh, do you know your schedule?
Next year's schedule, I do.
Because the 14th would be our regular schedule.
That's our second Wednesday,
second
if
Wednesday.
that's gonna be good with Terry's schedule.
And you know what would be interesting is whether the two new board members should even be part of that drafting process for this last matter. In other words, generally we do a drafting, in a deliberative process because people are giving their opinions, or a deliberative session. So, just keeping that in mind, because we might need our own meeting on that matter. In other words, the two board members who haven't participated to date, should they really be part of a deliberative session on that? And I'm not trying to exclude them, I just wonder if it really is appropriate.
Deliberative session on.
Glenda's opinion.
No, I thought we decided.
no.
No, but they wouldn't even be part of the meeting then.
Oh, you mean,
So as we're talking about a meeting in January, part of which is to do an election, it may
Well, we
be
may
that
have
that
to,
first
we have to
meeting-
work our
We'll go
timing
into it.
around
Okay.
and dismiss them.
Yeah, okay.
uh,
Just making people aware of that.
Right, dismiss them for the.
Dismiss them earlier or send them out, yeah.
Yes, either do that in the beginning or hold it till the end.
Well, we could do it that way, yeah, I mean, we could do new business first, knock that out with them.
Let them go
and then
first.
Push old business to the end
Yeah.
of the meeting and then dismiss them
Yeah.
and say, okay, because they shouldn't be, I mean,
Yeah.
there's a lot of bodies that do it that way, that whatever outstanding old business is in, none of the new members get
Mhm.
to deal with that, it's not until the old business is done. that you
Sure.
move on. Okay, so, yeah, what do people's schedules look like?
the 14th, this schedule works well for me. I mean, the second Wednesday of the month is typically what we do, right?
Mhm.
This works well for me. I like noon because I like the sandwiches. I get it.
Is there, any other day that works?
Oh, is that a bad day for you?
I can do it, but I then have class from 2:30
Oh.
till 8:15 at night.
So there's no oh, that's a long, yeah.
That's a long.
That's
But
almost-
I will
that's
do it
almost
if
a full
if
work day.
That's it's almost
For a professor,
Well, and
that's
then
just
plus don't forget all the
extraordinary.
thinking that I do. In the meantime.
That's
Which
almost
which
an
occurs
8-hour day.
24/7. You can be
24/7.
anywhere
That's
doing
right.
that. You
That's
don't
right.
necessarily.
I mean, you know, I wake up in the middle of the night.
So
and I'm
Tuesday's difficult because you have Rotary on Tuesday.
And you
Thursday's
have
difficult because
Thursday.
I have it on Thursday.
Yeah, Mondays are, who wants to have meetings on Monday? Fridays.
And who wants to
wow.
have them on Friday? All right, Wednesday it is. Okay.
Well, no, but I mean, that's a lot of thinking.
That's
for you.
okay. I can do it.
But we'd have to make sure
Alright.
you're out of here by 2 o'clock.
Yeah,
You gotta
we
go
just
clear
have
Well,
back
the
down.
good news is that you get me fresh, right? I mean, it's the poor kids taking my 8 o'clock at night class. They're going to get, won't be watching a lot of movies, but you'll get me fresh.
You know, I would say though, let's see.
I wonder, could we at least
See, the
move it
problem
up
is
to like
Mondays are often holidays and things like
No,
that.
how about 11:30? Is that
Oh,
people have work?
no, I could do, no, that's a good idea.
Well, because that way on days, because otherwise,
You guys could get all the parking
running out
spaces, all the
door
hooded
to
spaces.
regardless of where we work.
There
But
weren't
anyway,
hoods on the parking spaces.
If we do 11:30,
I guess I have to tell them.
one, that gives me a little bit of more breathing time on normal days to get to campus and kind of recombobulate myself. And then on days where we got a heavy schedule, we run over 15, 20 minutes.
Right.
I'm not going to have to run right
No,
off
we
the
could do
way.
11:30, if that works for you.
I'm
Yeah.
open.
And we can still get lunch, right?
Mm-hmm.
In fact, maybe we can have like lunch, brunch options. Yeah, choose trades.
There may be eggs on some
And
days.
mimosas.
Mimosas, there you
Mimosas.
go.
Got it.
Oh.
Okay,
Yeah.
11:30
right.
to
Yeah.
1:30.
Oh, and
Version of
recreational
mimosas in this
marijuana,
building.
right?
just
brownies.
Not
This
just you.
board wanted.
Go big or
we
go
know, we know it's a
home.
smoke-free environment, so stick it in the brownies, all right?
Brownies.
I'm a little worried because we do have brownies today, so let's make it clear that those are
But that's not actually
appropriate
getting,
brownies.
But that's not actually getting passed until April though, right? Or June.
It's not effective.
Not effective until April.
90 days or
90 days, which I think is actually middle of February.
So, the next meeting's been still the 14th, but it moved to 11:30.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Thank you.
I have
Is
it.
the university actually starting classes before the
That's
20th?
the first week, yeah, it's the 12th.
They moved it way up.
We're starting, yeah, I mean, it's too bad, you're right, I mean, like, 2 years ago, we didn't start until the week after, which was so nice. Cause I was able to get a lot more work done, that way, with that spare time. But yeah, now we start on the 12th. Yeah, that is gonna be.
So we only have one more motion that we need, I think.
Yep.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Been moved and second to adjourn. So moved and done.